Hey everyone, welcome to episode 3 of the Len James podcast. We got Acacia and John with us today, and we're going to be covering all sorts in this episode. We're going to be going over the new project that we've taken on and the new development site called The How in St Ives. We're going to be talking land and new homes, Acacia's role within the How development and why we thought it was important to put emphasis on it. I think one thing that we haven't talked about before, so we'll start off with you, John, is new homes in general and development sites and everything containing with that. So we talk a bit about that before we start talking about the how. That might be the best way to go into that.
Yeah, new homes because of my background from working at Rightmove has always been close to my heart. It was the most enjoyable time that I had at Rightmove, working with developers, understanding their product, and actually trying to find ways and that they can market, certainly on a platform like Rightmove where it's all property led, and actually just trying to almost give them the ability to go earlier. And that was always the challenge, certainly with the developers that we were dealing with in London and the South East, that they wanted to sell off plan as much as possible, and Rightmove had such a huge audience. But actually just listing properties that have no detail on them at all was actually, in the end, it was to the detriment of the development, because properties would just sit around and almost kind of just die because they were just on there for so long. And so actually when you look locally in terms of developers and what agents in particular are doing, but actually also developers in regards to their marketing, again, there's always a lack of information because people are keen to go as early as possible. And, there's limited information, there's limited images because there's nothing really to see. And so at its core, we, from a Len & James perspective, wanted to try and fix that in terms of giving developers opportunities to go earlier, sell off plan, and almost give them the ability to move on to their next project as quickly as possible. And then there's other bits that are really important to developers that we don't necessarily talk about as much, certainly from a podcast perspective, but in here we do. So Ian, for instance, who still hasn't done a podcast, but we will get him on one.
Definitely.
He's working really hard with kind of local developers and actually speaking more broader across Cambridgeshire to other developers in regards to sourcing land and finding land opportunities. That's really important for us, and it's really important for our developers in regards to spotting opportunities for them and being able to place that. And again, the kind of last thing, but it's probably the most common in terms of market analysis. If developers are looking for financing, looking to get into planning, need to make sure the numbers are going to align and actually what they're building almost kind of sits in terms of their expectations. So we spend a lot of time doing market analysis reports, land reports, just to make sure that as the market moves in regards to pricing, developers have up-to-date information that they're able to provide. So there's quite a lot of detail to it, which we do, but ultimately in a similar way that it works for our kind of home movers, we're just trying to be as helpful and useful as possible.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that you said there, which would be interesting to expand upon a little bit, is what you said about how, as it was, development sites could be better. It's not so much they were broken, but could be better, and we wanted to get involved to sort of fix that and do our take on it. What is it that you think needs fixing? What do you think could be better that we can, because we've done it a couple of times in the 3 years now that Len & James has been operating. When we get involved in something, it's because we know it could be better than what it currently is, and we go about trying to achieve that. And for the most part, I think that we do that, and we do that quite well. So what is it about developments that you see needs fixing, changing, could be better?
Yeah. So I think primarily my kind of gut instinct from kind of working with both estate agents and new homes developers over a sort of 12, 15 year period is that estate agents almost just treat new homes as just additional properties, and so they list them as such, but they don't have the detail to present them correctly. So the parallel I would use is, if anyone's listening, hopefully this kind of makes sense, but if you ever walk onto a new home site and you walk into a show home, it's pretty impressive. But you don't get that experience online from marketing at all. In fact, in some instances, you might have a really well-priced unit that has one CGI on it. It won't have much detail because the developer won't have been in a position to almost create that stuff yet because it's still in the ground. And the agent almost wants to list it. And so it's counterproductive for both. You're not showing the property off in its best light. You're not talking about those things that actually will be really important to people to kind of maximise the opportunity. So, we're fortunate enough that we're working, I think, with some of the best independent local builders kind of locally within Cambridgeshire, and we've got dialogue with them. And already, in terms of the way that we're starting to shape our marketing, even, kind of drone footage, talking about local area stuff, just trying to raise the bar, it is quite challenging. But actually, more information, the better. And actually, if you don't have that information, you shouldn't be launching it. It would almost be detrimental. And so, I think of all the things, New Homes feels like the biggest opportunity to really raise the bar, because actually, I think that there is so much that could be done better. And there's more support that could be given to developers to kind of help them that kind of really excites me, and is why we've kind of jumped in with both feet in regards to wanting to, I guess, create a kind of a proactive land and new homes department within the business, because I think the area, certainly Cambridgeshire as a whole, is crying out for it.
Good.
It's a long way of answering your question.
Well, it was a good answer. I mean, I think that question, I think it deserves a big answer because it's and a lot of detail.
Yeah, it's difficult to almost talk it through. It would be a lot easier with examples, because you'd be able to kind of go, and certainly to developers, is this what you had in mind of your product? Is this what you wanted for it? Every developer I've ever met is incredibly proud of what they're doing.
Yeah,
and my personal opinion is it's the agent's job to kind of take that passion that they've got and market it in a way that they look and go, oh, yeah, that is exactly what I was expecting. And unfortunately, I think more often than not that doesn't happen. It's really underwhelming. And when you think of the expense and actually how hard developers have worked to get the planning, money they've had to put down, the type of build that they're doing, there's a lot of thought that has gone into what they're doing. And I always think it's a bit of a crying shame that actually, when it gets to the marketing point, it sometimes looks like a bit of a dog's dinner.
Yeah. Is that because of an eagerness on the estate agent's part to want to get things set live, to put things on the market as quick as possible? They just kind of put together the basics of whatever they've got that doesn't maybe serve the property in the best way it should do, or the development site the best way it should do, but at least they've got something, and so they hit the button and go, yeah, now it's live, rather than taking the time to actually create decent marketing content that rivals the quality of the actual development site that's being put together. So when it goes live, what people experience when they inquire about it, or what they experience when they see it online, is just as high a quality as what the finished product's going to be.
Yeah, not really sure, because it will be different for everyone.
Right.
Some will be desperate just to get it on because it's another property on the books. My own personal view would be that to do it properly, it takes more time. And actually, if it doesn't look right, it shouldn't go live. The reasons why stuff goes live when it's not ready, I don't know. I'll be speculating. Probably be unfair for me to kind of cast those aspersions. But what I would say is, kind of looking across the area, there's certainly, this is happening more often than not. And so for us, I want us to be in a position where that's not us. We're actually able to offer something better, different, more compelling, and is actually more in line with what a developer should expect and wants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd certainly agree with what you're saying about taking the time to create content for marketing that's of an equal quality, but also poignant and has relevance to what it is.
And I suppose the answer to my question, as I'm kind of thinking about it now, is that you actually need real marketing skills to think outside the box, because in most instances you're kind of working with nothing. So if you're working with nothing because there isn't anything there, what are you going to do? We've had sites where we've used developers' previous work and kind of said this will be the type of finish. We've taken drone footage. There are different things that you can do to kind of show the site. I always find it just a bit heartbreaking from being a bit of a property nerd that you see these homes going on with kind of 1 or 2 photos and they're not the greatest. It just always feels like a crying shame. And if I was that developer, I'd feel particularly underwhelmed. So from a business perspective, for us, it kind of feels like a huge opportunity because I'm sure developers are looking for a different way. They're almost looking for, actually, there is a better way. Because it might just be that the thought is this is just the standard, this is just what happens. My view is that's total nonsense and actually it can be better. And therefore I'm challenging ourselves that, well, let's try and drive that. Let's be the drivers to show that there is something different that can be done.
Yeah, I mean, just because something is a standard doesn't mean that that's the ceiling of how good it can be. It's essentially the same situation as 3 years ago when Leonard James started, was that the bar was set rather low in terms of quality of product from a marketing point of view and a service point of view. But because it was set that low everywhere, everyone had just accepted that that's just the way that it is. And it might be that that's the point that developers are at, that they haven't been shown, or very rarely are they shown, any better way of doing things, that they think that this is just the normal, that this level here is just the level that everyone operates at.
Yeah, potentially unfair to say that across the board that that the standard was poor, but I think more often than not there wasn't a consistent standard. If your house was priced high, then you would get all these sweeties. You would get professional photography. You would get this stuff. But actually, what about if you sit under that? And it always felt like, well, everyone's, whether you have, and we've talked about it loads on podcasts, but if you're in a flat at sort of 90 grand. Or if you're in a £2 million house, you still feel the same way about. And actually, the agents should make you feel good about it as well, and actually make other people want to buy it. And they shouldn't be different. And again, the service stuff we've talked about it's the biggest thing for me. The customer journey. I really want to fix that, because I think that feels like the thing that the marketing is kind of like hit and miss, but consumers have a choice as to what they want to do and how they want their property look. So as long as we take care of that, less concerned about that bit for other agents. But as a kind of bigger thing, actually, this customer journey, how can we get you through without it almost breaking you, really, in some instances? How can we just be better? How can that's the stuff that kind of, I guess, if the stuff that's keeping me up at night, that's the stuff that's keeping me up at night.
Yeah, I think the service thing, and therefore your role, is it's certainly one of the central pillars to what we do. But I'd say out of all of the central pillars, it's probably the most important.
It's the thing that's not a quick fix.
Well, I often wonder how much of a, in a percentage, how many people there are out there whose houses we could have sold for them, but personally made the decision to not do it because the common perception of what this process is going to be like is such a negative thing for them to dwell on. They go, we're not going to put it on, maybe in another 5 years or something. Whereas if that wasn't the case, and the process could be that much more smoother, and that the process could be handled that much better by somebody like Acacia, how many more people out there might have been who did put their house on the market?
I hope that number would be low.
I would hope it would be low, but the pessimistic, I think a pessimistic view might be that it's high.
I think if you want to move, you probably go into it negatively in terms of, oh God, I really don't want to do this, and therefore, I would hope it wouldn't be a deterrent, because ultimately the thing that you want to do is you actually want to move house, and there's probably reasons behind why you want to do those things, and so you would hope a bad experience of, oh God, it was just really painful, isn't a thing to go, I'm not going to bother. I would think it was probably low. I would hope so.
Okay. I mean, I'm a pretty pessimistic person by nature, so I'd immediately jump to that conclusion.
Yeah, it's my glass half full. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a good insight about development sites in general, and I suppose that leads us on to the how. This is one we've worked with lots of local developments on a slightly smaller scale than this, but the how is a much bigger site to be working on. So how did that relationship come about, and what's the things that kind of make it stand out as a unique project for us to get involved with?
Yeah, so I was introduced to Richard probably about 2 years ago. Instantly kind of got on, was kind of really captured by his enthusiasm for what they were doing, and they were still in pre-planning stage at that point. So just tried to be as helpful as possible as we are with most people in terms of, is there anything we can do to help? What do you need? Did quite a bit of market analysis for them, different demand types for different house types that they were looking at in terms of where they could put things, price points, what's happening with the market. It was ever changing, and the relationship has kind of developed over time. I think as time has gone on, actually we've spent quite a lot of time, certainly the three of us, in their company. They're really nice people is the first thing to say. What they're trying to do is right up our street, and I think that they knew quite early on that we were kind of quite into it as well, that I think that we could help them. We were being helpful, but actually to get to this place where, you know, they talked about it in their own podcast, they want to create this long legacy. You know, it is really important to them that they create something new, and actually being able, you know, to be able to achieve that, it has to be marketed in the right way. The right way being, there's so many factors at the how that are pretty awe-inspiring. So when you consider the history of the how, well, I've lived in the area pretty much all my life, which is nearly 40 years. I know I don't look it. But, you know, I didn't even know the how was there. I certainly didn't know that the brickworks was there, and actually that's, you know, that helped supply bricks to some of the buildings that still stand there today. You know, Oliver Cromwell farmed the fields there. Well, we've all heard of Oliver Cromwell here locally. Certainly if you went to Hinchinbrook like I did and you were in Cromwell House. So actually, you know, that the historical significance of that building and that site it's kind of rooted in certainly our local history. So as a start of a 10 from a marketing perspective, well, it feels almost like a duty of care that we almost need to try and put that back front and centre. But how do you do that? You know, it's a listed building. It's not in the best condition. But how do you kind of take it and relive that story? So that was almost actually feels really important. It feels, before we do anything, if we can put the how back in the kind of public psyche, really, then that feels a good thing to do. And then you just consider the kind of little cherries on top, really. So you've kind of got a listed site, but it's within 17 acres of parkland. It backs onto kind of Houghton Meadow, the thicket. So, you know, in terms of location, it's pretty mega. You know, they're going to create these bridleways that actually makes it all connected. So location is just outstanding. And then, you know, almost as like an extra bonus, you've got the building modern contemporary homes, which people are just going to love, you know, kind of glass frontage, open plan, you know, it's going to be outstanding. And then, you know, you've kind of got the green, you know, this is all going to be a green village, you know, it's all going to be built for the future. So it's modern, cutting edge technology. And so from an excitement of a project, if you could have one of those things, you kind of go, well, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
But we've kind of got them all. It certainly makes it challenging. You know, I know it's sort of, you know, past out and it's kind of going, well, good, here you go. How can we figure that out? But the fact that we've got all those things makes the how like no other site I know of in Cambridgeshire, and it's been really exciting from that perspective, because marketing and the way that we do things has always been hugely important to me, you, everyone in the business. This feels like the first opportunity we've had to kind of go rogue and kind of go, wow, let's go for this. You know, we can take the gloves off. We've got time to plan, and we can really make a loud splash. And I think that's what we're going to do. And I think already we're seeing signs of that. But I think the work that's been put in will be able to kind of achieve those things, and actually most importantly deliver on the things that are important to Richard and Mick and what they've told us. We want to try and achieve these things. Okay, good. Well, we'll take those learnings and we'll take what you've told us and we'll try and create it.
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying just there about kind of like, for the last 3 years we've been refining, improving and adding to all of the tools in our toolbox in terms of how we do what we do. And it was almost like it was in preparation for a project like this. The way in which we approach relating to customers who are looking at properties, it suits this really well. But if the project's big enough that there's also scope that we don't. It's not just a case of taking what we have previously learned and applying it to this. There's also headroom to be able to do new things and produce new ways of marketing properties that we haven't been able to touch before, because it's been on an individual residential basis, and that's really exciting. I was what you were saying about how many facets there are to the how, and the fact that there is so much to love about it. I was actually thinking the other day, and I could put it to you two. I was trying to be really strict with myself, and I had to pick one thing that I loved the most, and I basically chopped and changed between its location and the fact that it's in the sort of parkland setting surrounded by trees, and the sort of self-sustaining eco side of it, and it ended up being the eco side. That's my favorite aspect. I like closed looped designs of anything. So a house that generates its own electricity, that then you charge your own car, that then takes you to work.
You don't say the geek in you is the thing. That's the thing you like most.
But that's what I love the most. I think it's such a efficient model of living from an energy consumption point of view, that it's like I'm in awe of that whole sort of ecosystem.
Well, it'll be the future of house building for sure.
I hope so. I think with what's going on at the moment in the world, there's going to be less of a dependency on one of the biggest energy suppliers in this side of the Atlantic. It'll be interesting to see what happens once the dust settles and everything, in terms of, there's already obviously a huge push for greener living and things like this, but I think what's going on at the moment in the world is going to accelerate the desire to get off fossil fuels quicker.
What's your favourite then?
Yeah, what would yours be? You can't have eco, that's mine.
No.
I had that.
I think mine's the location. So obviously how we've done the Thicket Walk. We did it. It's one of the videos. I just think, we walked from St Ives, we did the Thicket, and it was going to Houghton, and then obviously linking you to Hemmingfords, doing that walk through the marketing campaign that we did and continue to do. I think that really, because it was always like, oh, the how's just here and the how's just here, and no matter where we were, it was kind of going, oh, it's just there.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how, going through the walk, you're surrounded by greenery, and really emphasises the eco living as well. You're surrounded by it in that community.
The location thing, I was like my close second, and it's because it's set away from everything. I'm the sort of person that if the world went tits up tomorrow, I'd be in a cabin somewhere in a mountain, not connected to anybody. And I like the fact that these are set away from that main road. They're surrounded by nature. They almost do have that sort of cabin in the woods feel. But throw a stone and St Ives over there, and a beautiful walk to Houghton is over that way, where there's a lovely pub, and that balance was great. And so that's why I love the location. But eco did edge out slightly for me as a favourite. What about you?
Well, it's almost like we've teed this up, but mine is just the sheer history of the building, and I think because it was almost a surprise, so you almost chip away and you start to learn more about it, and the fact that it's the historical importance that it had. And almost that it's been lost over time, and from that perspective, I love that there's an opportunity to almost reinvigorate it and start it again and get it front and centre, because that's the bit that I kind of go, that's really exciting. That's probably not the bit that will hook buyers in. I think probably the location, the greenery, the fact it's private, it's exclusive. These aren't going to be plots that are all on top of each other. There's there's TPOs everywhere, so you literally are, tree preservation orders. You literally are going to be scattered around parkland.
I agree. I think that's going to be the biggest hook for people is the location. But yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, in the end, I think it'll be a mixture of everything.
I did see how excited you got as you learnt the history of stuff. When I came back to the office,
I think because it was a surprise.
Yeah,
I think yeah, I mean,
when you found out the bridge in St Ives was built with bricks from the brickwork, you talk about me being a geek.
Yeah, because I think that it's easy to forget that there was a world before that we were all here, and the fact that we've lived in the area for in my case 40 odd years. There's a building there that actually at that building, Oliver Cromwell farmed the fields there. It was built in the 1800s. The brickwork supplied lots of the buildings that stand there today, but no one really knows it exists.
Yeah, I think I was the same. You mentioned it earlier. Obviously, lived here all my life, and obviously, kind of unearthing this history of the how is just obviously we're learning the history of it, but we're also going to be a part of the future of it as well. So I think that's a really key point.
And it's because it's not out in the open. The drive, the 400 or 500 meter drive. You would easily go past it. So it's not one of those.
First time I went.
Oh my god! I knew it was there. You wouldn't know it was there. So it's not a detriment to anyone in regards to you just wouldn't know it's there. So it's that bit's really exciting because especially when you talk to Richard and Mick and the fact that it's for them restoring it back into the community and leaving it as a legacy is so important to them that it's almost hard to not buy into it. It's.
But I think that's an incredibly important factor to everything that they want to do is that they do want to spend the time and the care to restore that building and bring it back into the public consciousness within St Ives. I'm sure there's plenty of people in St Ives who are aware of the history of that building and things, but I think the average person might not be as much clued up on it. I think it's a really good part of what they're trying to do is that they do want to restore it all and make it a front and center feature of the whole development side.
Credit to them because it's hard.
Yes,
it's really hard.
Yeah, I don't envy some of the meetings and phone calls they're going to have with a Grade 2 listed building trying to get.
I don't think it's that in terms of you're working with an older building. It's just in terms of the expense it's going to take to restore it. Not even the planning bit because that's a separate conversation altogether. But just the plans for it and what they want it to be grand and they want to have lights outside it. They want to make it the centre point and that's going to be a real challenge for them and they're absolutely committed to doing it and good on them because I think that when all's said and done at the end of it and you look at it. I think it's just going to be outstanding. Yeah, absolutely outstanding.
Grand. Yeah, I think the house is going to be something really special, and I think as time goes on, and the development sort of comes to life a lot more, we're going to obviously talk about it in more detail. We'll hopefully get Rich and Mick on the podcast again, get them talking about it as the development goes on. But one of the things that we put into place right from the get-go was Acacia's role, and the fact that you're basically going to be managing the entire process for people from the point of their inquiry all the way up to the end. So why do you think it was important to have a point person within the team to manage all of that and then talk a bit about what it is that you're going to be doing for people?
Yeah, so I think we kind of going from what we do in the office here at Lennon James, we're kind of incorporating that, although there are obviously moving parts at the very start of it. Obviously, John does the valuations and you go out to do the marketing and whatnot and the viewings, but we want to incorporate that where, like we have with Rich and Mick, we've started at the very start with them coming from a journey, and we want to then have any person that inquires or a client or buyer, whatever they are, we want to incorporate that with them. So we're at the very start from the get-go, so they inquire and then I'm there right till the very end to hand over the key or picking the countertop in their new home and all of that. It's all a part of the journey throughout, really.
Yeah, I think it's really a really important factor to have that continuous. And we were talking about it the other day about how obviously the alternative is to have the entire team managing it. But I feel like that there's so much passion and ideas and thoughtfulness that's gone into this site from Rich and Mick's point of view, that with you going on that journey with them by yourself, you just soak all of that up, and it doesn't become diluted by, only, everyone in a team of 10 people having a 20% interest in it or something, because they've got other stuff going on. You are 100% involved in it, and you're as equally as passionate about the whole project as what the developers are. And I think that that's really, really important.
I think this will be our approach for new homes in particular, going forward. So we've got a development coming at the end of the year, which Chloe will take on. It certainly will be the way that we approach it.
I think it makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked at length on these podcasts, but certainly in the office about I've really got this desire, this concierge will take you through, we'll own it, and it feels like new homes in particular lends itself so much better for that. But it's going to take a lot more work, because when you consider that number of inquiries coming through, someone having to deal with that, actually multiple visits to site, because people want to go back, they might want to choose furnishings. Actually, in this instance, it will be taking you down to the kitchen showroom, it might be taking you to the bathroom showroom. And actually, for Acacia, it's a lot harder, because when you consider the elements that we just talked about, the history, the vision, the location, you're going to need someone who knows about all of those things, who's actually gone through that entire journey and understands everything, because ultimately there's going to be different people. We're already seeing it now. Some people go, oh God, can you tell me more about the history? Actually, what's the vision? Where the plot's going to be? Where's this one? So there's going to be lots of different questions, and actually having that confidence that the person you're talking to knows exactly what it is that they're talking about is critical, because again, user journey being so important for us, in this instance, we want Mick and Richard to be going, this is just seamless, this is absolutely seamless. But even more important than that, we want people who are buying up there to feel like they're getting an A-star service, that wow, this really is an exclusive site, and this really is private, and God, the service I'm getting up here is just outstanding. So you can't say it's this special thing and then just deliver a bum service with, I don't really know what's going on. I'll get that information. We've got to be invested, and really, Acacia owning it means that, one, we can rest easy, because we know she will, because she's lived and breathed it. And actually, again, it's exciting. I don't. For Richard and Mick, they've got almost like a member of staff.
She's on loan to the house.
Yeah, she is. And it's important that they know that we are committed to achieving the results that we need to achieve, and actually that they can come to us, but actually they've got absolute confidence that the whole marketing and the whole salesmanship and actually what's going to be delivered there is in line again with their vision. And we've been able to allocate resource to do that. It will be different for every developer that we work with. Some will kind of maybe have their own sales office and might just want us to use our local kind of knowledge, use our local expertise to kind of build up an audience and build up marketing. It might be people want full ownership, which is what we've got with the Howl, going, look, I just want you guys to take this on and deliver this for us. It'll be different for all, but certainly the next two big developments we've got going through 2022, we're taking this approach where Chloe and Acacia will be the front and centre from a customer perspective, and be able to drive it all the way through as they do at the point of sale for our current clients.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, and I think that like you say, A-star service in large part across many different industries, that always comes from something that's more personable. And so having the one person is to manage it all is the right way to go.
She won't mind me. She probably will mind me saying it, but she delivers that already. So from me sitting here, I've got absolute confidence that she has the tools to be able to do that, because there's no one in this office who cares about delivering that more than Acacia. So it becomes really obvious for us that that's the best way to go, because we're seeing it already. We're not asking you to do anything that really you're not doing already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes from a personal perspective as well. Obviously, taking what I do in the office here, but obviously throughout the marketing that we've done so far, you know, we've been out to the site and we've been in our wellies on a windy, wet, rainy, whatever day it is, and you're filming and we're nearly falling over in the mud and whatever, or walking the thicket. It really, for me, comes from a personal perspective because I've learned so much from it as well.
But the thicket only came from you actually deciding to go and walk it, because you haven't
we just walked
it before.
Yeah. Just picking up the camera, going for a walk, taking the dog Wilson with us, and obviously just talking about, right, we're starting St Ives, but we're heading to Houghton, and then actually we're going to pop over to Hemmingford, and it all just connecting together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, particularly when it came to some of those videos, really, it got to the point where I was just the cameraman. You know, we knew from the get-go that we wanted to concentrate the first round of content, phase one, was going to be very heavily focused on things like the surrounding area and the stuff that's near the How. We have done content about the site itself. In fact, that's the first video that we put out. But like, there's a video all about St Ives. There's a video about the thicket, and there's, you know, all this content that's to do with once you get there and you live it, this is the surrounding area. But they were concepts at first, and when particularly with the thicket. It wasn't until you kind of said, you know, let's walk it and things like that, and you really then took the lead and were very collaborative with how that video kind of came together. And I think because of that, we have this concept of what the video is going to be like, but then you were actually involved with, well, let's shoot it like this, let's do this and this and this. It makes you that much more involved, and that will translate into the interactions that you have later down the line with people.
Yeah, we certainly lived and breathed it from the very start, I think, and it's easier to portray that as well with anybody that inquires. So, you know, if somebody asks me a question, you know, about the How or what they're going to be doing with it or the area itself, it's going, oh, when me and Jack walked it, or, you know, it's all coming from a personal perspective as opposed to, oh, let me double check, let me call you back, which that's fine in itself, but I can just relay it and just be like, yeah, this is coming from me and not just a piece of paper or an advert that we've got on one of our portals or anything like that.
And again, it's so critical for us, because if you've got all these unbelievable, you know, unique selling points, it's totally going to fall flat on its face if, you know, you get there and, you know, almost the person just isn't into it. And in the end, you know, it's really exciting for Acacia because it's something new for all of us to this scale, because, you know, we've worked with 1 to 5 units, 1 to 10 units, but, you know, this is a grandiose, you know, and this is the first. So it's, you know, you've got whatever you're selling in life, if you're selling something, you've got to be into it, and I think that will come across, you know, a series of videos that, you know, once we can start to show the kind of fixtures and fittings and Acacia, and the weather's a little bit better, and we can start to show footings going in, you know, there's loads that can be done.
I think that's right. I think that's right in what you were saying about, you know, people like to go to, people like to buy things from people who are genuinely excited or professionals in that field. I mean, I get it, you know. I get messages quite regularly from people. I'm thinking about buying my son their first camera because they want to get into photography. What do you recommend? I'm not a salesman. I'm a photographer and I'm a filmmaker. But there's more weight, and it seems more sincere when it comes from someone like that. You know, I'd take a mechanic's advice on what car to buy over a salesman. You know, just because they've got a more intimate understanding, and that's what we've got here. Is Acacia's, you know, has genuine enthusiasm and excitement for the site, because we're all excited by it because it genuinely is an exciting site, but you would have been through it from the beginning, which is really good. It's only been live, I mean, we've been living and breathing it for months now, but I mean, it's only been live for the last few days.
Yeah.
What's it been like for the last few days? Has the inquiries kind of been quite varied in what people are asking about? Has it been very similar? Has it exploded beyond what you thought it was going to be in terms of inquiries? What's the first few days of the How going live been like?
It's exploded. It's just completely exploded. It's like ping, ping, ping people. Especially, obviously, we've got the landing page, which is like this exclusive hub where people need to register to gain all the information in regards to How and the development and what's going on. But we launched, what was it, the first video, I think, or the second video, I can't quite remember.
Officially on Monday, once the landing page is up and running. So we switched it on Monday,
We've had just over 6,000 views on the advert alone. I think it's 1,600 views on the video. Bearing in mind it's a 7-minute video, so people have taken the time to sit there and watch what we're doing and what's going on with the how, which is...
I was always a bit wobbly about that.
Yeah.
All the other stuff that we've been putting out in terms of marketing content up to this point, other than the podcast, have been 60 to 90 second videos, digestible.
Yeah.
7-minute videos going into great detail about something as large scale as this. A little part of me was like,
but it's a great video.
Are people going to watch that?
Yeah, but it's a great video. I mean,
thanks.
I'm
Pat on the back there.
Yeah, but I guess I can say this because I'm the one who's kind of sat on the outside, kind of looking at this stuff. But I look at that and go, yeah, that is exactly what we wanted to achieve in terms of, there's no property portal launch here. This is a branding campaign. There's no property listings that are going to drive inquiries. We're going to have to get people excited in a way that hasn't been done before, or it has. I certainly haven't seen it. And I, you kind of had the input in terms of watching it sort of bound together, but the finished product on those 5 videos, I know people have only seen one so far, but I think it's hard not to get excited. And that first video, you've got 2 developers walking you through the site, showing you where everything's going to be. You can almost start to visualize where everything's going to be, and there's nothing there. I know I'm biased, but I thought it was incredible.
It's not just backslapping. I'm very pleased with how the content's come out, particularly that one with Rich and Mick, because they are developers. They're not TV hosts, but you got them in front of the camera and just said, here's the subject matter, this site that you guys are putting together. And it just flowed out of them so well. And I think that testifies to just how much they believe and love what they're doing.
Definitely.
But yeah, that first video that we put out, hosted by Rich and Mick, with walking you around the site, came together so well. And the other ones that we've got to come out, the area video as well, narrated by you, I think is really, really good as well. It's a really good snapshot of what the local area is like.
I think that, genuinely, again, sort of repeat myself, but I'm incredibly proud of the fact that we've been able to achieve what we've achieved in terms of the presentation and stuff, working with very little, because it is probably the hardest thing to do. And actually, this should change the way that we look at everything, because at the start of this conversation that we've just had here, we've talked about, agents are putting houses on the market and all that stuff, and we're almost kind of, my whole approach is going, well, let's see if we don't have to put any properties on the property portal. Let's see, we're calling it exclusive. Wouldn't it be great if we never ever have to put it on a property portal? Not because we're anti-property portals, but just because there's another way of doing it, and a different way, and we're removing ourselves from the kind of market where everyone is, and we're creating this own place where things should sit. And for future developers, then they've got confidence of going, oh, you're not just going to stick up. No, we can do this, and then we're starting to see the results. I'm sure occasionally we'll start talking about the results, but this isn't small fry stuff that's happening. This is, these are going to be big numbers, and actually in the end, what that will create is absolute confidence. Hopefully, being able to sell our plan, and we'll be able to deliver on what we set out to do for Rich and Mick, and ultimately that's all we're trying to do here. Yeah,
we definitely kind of flipped it, where obviously if we were to launch, a residential property, we would put the information on, we'd launch it on our portals, and then we'd provide the information to that client. Whereas we've completely flipped it, where we're going back to, we're walking around a muddy site here in Wellies. We're not giving any information about the properties that are going to be there. There's nothing out there. The inquiries that we're seeing. So on one of the adverts, we've got the link for the landing page. I think we've had, 570 odd, just over 570 click-through rate. 75 of those have materialised into registrations, which is really key, because what it means is that they keep going back to the link for that information. We've had people going up to the site, we've had people in the office as well. So kind of forecasting that we're going to be getting, 25 to 30 registrations a week, which is just absolutely crazy. But that's minimum. That is minimum of what we're doing based off an advert that we did on Monday. It's based off one advert.
And what's the inquiries been like in terms of interest? What sort of things are people asking you about?
Oh, people want to know prices. People want to know what the property types are going to be. It's all based on that. I've had quite a few in terms of the history of the house or what's going to happen with that. But yeah, mainly it's all about like what are the timescales. People want to know. People are really thirsty for more of this information. Obviously, over time we're going to be releasing, but at the moment, we're just.
There's lots in the hub already though.
Yeah.
So we've almost dropped one video with a plan that this is almost going to be a sort of a 10-week campaign of the videos, kind of dropping every sort of 2 to 3 weeks. The hub has all that information in, so if you watch the video and you kind of go, "Oh, I'm quite into this." Look, it couldn't be easy. You just drop your details in, and you can go and basically see every video that's out there. So you can learn about, you've got Richard and Mick doing their podcast, where you can really, I want to know more about what these guys' journey has been and what they're doing. Yeah, that's all in there. In terms of location, well, if you're out of area, what does it have to offer? You might have heard the words the thicket used. Again, I haven't lived it all my life. Never walked the thicket. It sounds good though, but actually now you're kind of walking down it going, actually that's really bloody nice. And the kind of details around the plots, the site plans, that's all in there. So, and the plan moving forward is obviously once you're registered, we will be having a launch event. So if you if you register, you're automatically invited to that kind of exclusive event. You can't come without being registered. But when
do you reckon that's going to happen?
Sort of towards the end of June is the plan.
Right.
And then, obviously we're at sort of, this is the first phase done, but we've got loads of plans that we're going to drop more info in there. So it might not necessarily be appropriate to kind of dump all the progress in there.
No.
In terms of our own social medias, but actually we will post everything into the hub. So the case is down there, if you're down there, time lapses. So you can actually, so people can start to feel involved in the project. We know from the houses we've sold, people like to buy them early because they feel like they're part of the process, almost like a self-build in a way where, oh God, I watched the foundations going in, watched the frames going up, I helped pit and bathrooms, hot plaster was in this week, and actually we're almost going to be able to gift that to people, and I think that's really special.
Yeah, I mean the early interest has been really exciting, considering the fact that at the moment it's just a site. It's just a plain bit of ground that they've mapped out where things are going to be, but nothing's in the ground yet. So knowing how much more stuff I've got to capture and film and make in terms of the marketing stuff, and we've already got this level of an interest. It's really exciting times ahead.
Yeah,
really exciting.
And it's really exciting. As I said, we can do this for other developments. So yeah, in this instance, we've been able to almost capture the bits. But every single site that every developer's building, they have their own story. They've had their own challenges in getting there. Why are you building what you're building? Why the location? So this isn't. It's not necessarily but you can do that for the how because you've kind of got all the tools there. That's an easy one. Well, we can do it for everything. It just takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time and it takes, it's almost relationships in terms of really getting to understand, a kind of developer and what their mindset is and what they want from it. And I see that as the job of us to be able to extract that and create it into this beautiful story. And I find that really exciting, because taking nothing and making it into something, and similar to what what Len and James was. It was nothing. We had 0 properties, 0 contacts, 0 idea of what we were going to do. Just an idea of, look, we've experienced these things. It just can be better, and I feel exactly the same way about developments. We've had a great dress rehearsal with the developers we've been working with over the last 3 years, and a huge thank you to them because the brilliant relationships that we have, they're really good to work with. But that has almost got us into this position where we're uber confident that we're going to be able to deliver this stuff on scale now across the Cambridgeshire region. So I'm as excited about this next journey that we're about to go on with New Homes as I was with kind of setting up a business, because I feel exactly the same about the opportunity that's out there. And I think that developers, I've already had messages from people on LinkedIn who've seen the video, have gone, oh great, it'd be really good to chat. This feels different. And so, as I said, I'm equally as excited about the journey that we're going to go on with New Homes, because I think it's going to be a sort of a eventful one.
Okay, that's all great. Okay, so if people wanted to register then to see the progress and to see everything we've done already, use this as your platform. Go give us your best.
Yeah, for like a radio station.
Yeah,
so if you want to register your interest, all you need to do is go to www.thehowdevelopment.co.uk. Just submit your details and we'll grant you access.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So I hope everyone's enjoyed that, and looking forward to seeing